Yo, what's going on guys? It is Ray, otherwise known as Black Jarian, and today I'm going to be walking you through the best graphic settings as well as the best controller settings so you can take the ultimate advantage when it comes to your frames per second and omnidirectional movement. Guys, I'm telling you right now, with these settings, I can guarantee you're going to be getting more kills, you're going to notice a big increase in aim assist, and you're going to rank up as fast as possible. Before we get into that though, I'd appreciate it if you guys dropped a like on this video and subscribe if you're new to the channel. We are on the road to 1,000 subscribers before this year's over, so I'd greatly appreciate it. Lastly, I do stream on Twitch, and I will most likely be live right now, so if you want to have an opportunity to play with me on stream, definitely hit that link in the description below. Alright, so we have just loaded into a private match game. I'm gonna take a second to show you all my controller settings. I can play on keyboard and mouse as well. However, if I have aim assist, I'm definitely gonna use it because why wouldn't I? Now, starting off with our sensitivity, I do play on 6.6 when I am going for camo challenges and just using red gun in general. However, I do snipe majority of the time, and when I am sniping, I usually bump that sensitivity up to 1414 just so I can have that extra room to drag scopes. I mean, it feels pretty smooth to me. Definitely play around with the sensitivity if you want to keep up with the pros as best as possible. I know the range that they're playing in right now is usually 6.6 to 9.9. As I was saying, this is gonna range between person to person. If you tend to struggle with your recoil control, I definitely recommend staying at a 6.6. However, if you think you're pretty confident with your recoil control, I would say bump this up to around 8 or 9. Really just depends on the person. Okay, so I don't swap my bumpers and triggers because I actually have digital tap triggers, so I don't really have to worry about that. Controller vibration is something you want to have turned off. Some people are sensitive about this topic, controller vibration. I don't like it because I personally feel like it throws off my aim when it vibrates, so I'm gonna keep that off. Now, when it comes to dead zones, I usually like to keep my left stick and my right stick to 5 minimum. Your left stick max, you can tweak around and mess around with this. Makes it easier to move around and use that omnidirectional movement. So if that is something you want to perfect and master in this game, I definitely recommend putting this down to 70. We have sensitivity multiplier. I don't use any of this. I just have this at default. You can mess around with this if you like to. However, I like my shot right now, and I don't really think I have a problem with changing anything. Target aim assist, make sure this is on, of course. Aiming advanced settings. Now, this is where you're gonna get into your aim assist curve type. I personally play on standard, but again, that is just what I am used to. I feel like standard has the best aim assist. However, if you feel too stiff on standard, I definitely recommend playing on dynamic. I know a lot of pros that use dynamic and they like the overall feel of it. I don't recommend playing on linear because then you kind of just feel like a bobblehead whenever you move your analog stick to your left or right. It's pretty hard to control. All right, now when it comes to movement, I usually play on tactical sprint assist. Now, again, you do not have to do this, but if you want to get the maximum performance out of your movement in this game, strongly recommend. You can also mess around with your sprint assist. I would keep these on simply because it helps you out. Mantle assist, turn off because there's usually a lot of times where you're trying to jump shot someone over a peak and you end up mantling on accident. So I always turn this off. Crouch assist, not sure why you would need this on. So for corner slice, I'm actually not a big fan of that because whenever I aim in, you can see my gun is not all the way straight, but when I come from this corner, my gun becomes straight again. If you like that setting, by all means have it on, but I am not a big fan of that setting, so I'm gonna turn it off. For movement behaviors, I would definitely recommend turning this to hybrid, so that way you can get the best advantage when you're using your omni movement. Automatic airborne mantle, I recommend turning this off. Sprint restore, leave this on. Side maintain sprint, you can leave this on as well. For combat behaviors, I pretty much have everything on default here. I don't really think there's anything in this section that needs to be tweaked or changed, so I recommend just leaving this as is. With all of those controller settings done, let's head over to our graphic settings so we can get the most frames per second possible. As you can see right now, I'm on a PC and I'm running about 79 frames. Well, I do have everything on extreme, but I'm going to show you how to get the best frames possible as well as keeping a good quality game. I've already tested this out. It does seem that you get about 10 to 15 more FPS whenever you play on full screen exclusive. I play on full screen Borderlands Gorillas because I want to be able to move my mouse in and out of my game as I want to without tapping out. I have heard people say you can lose like 5 to 10 frames doing this, but I haven't really seen a difference, so I'm just gonna leave this on and recommend that you all do that as well. For low latency mode, make sure that you guys are playing on if you have a 20 series graphics card. However, if you have a 30 series graphics card or above, as you can see, I have a GeForce RTX 3070, you should be playing on plus boost. What this will do, it will give you an extra boost in performance, whether that's your frames, your latency, or overall how the game feels. Everything else in the display section you really don't need to worry about. You can just keep it at default. Now let's move over to quality. Now this is where you're going to notice the biggest decrease or increase in your performance. So for upscaling and sharpening, you want to change this from NVIDIA image scaling to NVIDIA DLSS. Now what this will do, it will give you a big boost in performance and FPS, as well as make your game feel smooth. With that being said, you can keep your VRAM target scale at 80, but if you want the most performance possible, drop this all the way down. Now granted, if you do this, you will see a decrease in quality, but you will see an increase in frames. So if you're one of those people who just want the most frames possible and is willing to sacrifice some quality, I would drop this all the way down to 50. With that being said, I'm not one of those people, so I'm going to put that right back up around 80. So for texture resolution, it's automatically set to high. I will put this on low or normal. For texture filter anisotropic, you want to take this off of ultra and put this on low. For depth of field, you can have this on if you would like to. It's not that big of a deal when it comes to your frames per second. I just personally will like it better if it's off, simply because I think it adds a little bit of motion blur, and that is something you do not want to be playing with. Detail quality, take this off a high and set it to low, as well as particle resolution. You don't have to go to very low for particle resolution. I would just go low because you still want your game to look pretty fair at least. Bullet impacts, you can leave this on. It won't really affect your frames too much. If you want the best frames possible, persistent effects is definitely something you should consider turning off, simply because it does make your frames go lower when it intensifies with any kind of crash or nade that appears on your game. Shader quality, I would take this off of high and set it down to low. On-demand texture streaming, I would take this off of optimize and set it to minimal, as well as setting local texture streaming quality to low. Alright, so this section right here, shadow and lighting, that is where it's going to get very hectic when it comes to your frames. As you can see, all of this stuff is on ultra, if not high. We need to set all of this to low and off. Just off this section alone, you'll notice that you'll have a huge increase in FPS and performance. One thing I will say though is if you're playing Warzone and you're playing competitively, shadows is a very good competitive advantage to have on. I would not turn it anywhere past normal though. For environment, you can just change all of this to the lowest setting possible because you will get frames from it and they really don't affect you negatively. Once we have all of these settings completed, all you need to do is go over to the next tab, which is view, press apply, and now we are on the view tab. So motion reduction preset, keep this off. It is not necessary at all. For field of view, this is all personal preference. I like playing on the highest FOV possible, as I do think you have a very good advantage of seeing things your opponents can't see. However, I have heard if you are playing on a lower FOV, it does increase your frames. For ADS field of view, make sure this is not on independent. Make sure it is on affected. What independent basically does, it kind of zooms out of your FOV a little bit and it makes your aim assist kind of wonky, and it makes it harder to control recoil. Weapon field of view, leave this on default. Third party, if you are playing third party games, you can tweak with this, but this is on default for me since I don't. Vehicle field of view, keep that on default. World motion blur, turn that off. Weapon motion blur, turn that off. These are so bad. Sure, if you're playing casually, it'll give you a more cinematic look and feel to the game, but the reason not even pros play with motion blur on is because it can slightly change your sensitivity when you look left and right. Everything else on this tab is pretty much default, so we can go ahead and switch over to the next tab, which is our benchmarks. And honestly, here you really don't need to do anything. We pretty much just leave this as is. With that being said, that is pretty much all the settings you need to make sure your game is running as optimal and as smooth as possible. Alright guys, I know it's only been one day of the official launch of this game, but it's already looking extremely promising. I am going to be going for the camo grind. I do have one weapon currently gold already, and that is my XM4. Right now I'm working on my AK-74, but we're making some pretty good progress. I need about 47 more headshots before I can start the special challenges and able to unlock gold. So honestly, our progress is looking really good so far, so stay tuned for more videos in the future. I'm going to be doing a whole bunch of meta loadouts, class loadouts, how-to videos. I got a how-to snipe video coming up soon, so be on the lookout for that. And yeah, it's been Raze, guys. Later.